I am frightened for Run, Hide, Fight, the judgment that might come down upon it, levied by people who haven't even seen it yet. My name is Kyle Rankin. I am the writer-director of Run, Hide, Fight. Run, Hide, Fight is an idea that I've had for about 6 or 8 years or so. Certain ideas you get, they're kind of just sticky and they just don't leave your head. The idea of Zoe and her dad, the whole kind of first 20 minutes came to me fully formed, and I'd mention it to my wife a lot. Even with the mentioning of the idea, I'd say, would I get crucified for writing such a movie? I finished it right before the horrific events in Vegas, where that guy opened fire on that country music festival. Out of deference to the victims, let's just sit on this, not show it to anybody, which I totally agreed with. And then the Parkland shooting happened in the school in Florida, and I got another call from my manager, thinking he would suggest let's wait further, which I couldn't argue with too. But he said, look, this is going to keep happening. Obviously, this is the world we live in. Let's show it to some people. And then very quickly after that, Dallas here at Cinestate got involved. Dallas on the phone call just said kind of the magic words of, if you go with me, we're going to make this movie. And that was very important to me, to not just have it be purchased and just have it sit on a shelf somewhere. And then he said, I also have no notes on the script, which was awesome. And here at Cinestate, he's like, we like to give filmmakers final cut. And I was like, what? Just things that you just don't really hear anymore. So all of that was very attractive. I have heard a lot that people are concerned that Run, Hide, Fight exploits school shootings. And I totally understand that. And I am also fearful of that. And I'm kind of anticipating that reaction. And I guess I can name a few movies that I felt like followed the shooters and kind of how they became shooters. I wasn't so much interested in that as I was in telling the story of a story of bravery and a story of a young person deciding to fight back. The cast is so fantastic. This is the best cast I've ever worked with. When I met Isabel, and when I met Ollie, and when I met Eli, who plays Tristan, I just really felt like they were instantly the right people. Early on in one of Isabel's auditions, she made me tear up, which I can't remember that ever happening in an audition before. That's when I knew that she was the right person. And Eli Brown playing Tristan, he was the only one who didn't kind of come in and do a very kind of mustache twirling version of Tristan, which I was getting a lot of kind of on the surface auditions for Tristan, and it made me really question my writing, frankly. I started to actually get a little dismayed and like, man, maybe I need to go back in and pull apart the writing. And then all of a sudden Eli Brown came in and started reading Tristan in just a very stark, realistic, frightening way, and it just totally sold it. Not only did I audition them, but I would also pull them into a separate room and just say, hey, I think you're fantastic, but if you agree to this and if you're a part of this movie, I want you to think about the potential fallout. I want you to think about the potential repercussions on your career. Many of them, would answer quickly like, no, I get it. I'm just playing a part, and this is an important movie, and I want this role. But there were maybe one or two who did want to think more about it, and then, texted later, and it's like, no, I'm in. I really want to do this. So there was a lot of thought given throughout the entire process. And luckily, a lot of my collaborators on this have been very thoughtful people. So, yeah, the title Run, Hide, Fight is, I kind of lifted that from maybe a campaign that didn't catch on, kind of like how Stop, Drop, and Roll is what to do, if you're on fire. I think it's fantastic advice. I put it on there as a title. I started thinking of this movie as Run, Hide, Fight very early on in the script process. Man, even if this movie just gets the title out there and the idea of doing one of those three things, I think it'll be worthwhile, because it's very human instinct to just freeze or do nothing. Or a lot of people, when they're interviewed later, they think that firecrackers are going off in the school, or they think that furniture is being moved in a room nearby, that they're not hearing gunshots. So even just to heighten the awareness, maybe that'll help some people out there. I spent a lot of time researching school shootings. It was a dark place to go, but I kind of grabbed different planned attacks from some of these events. I think it was even the Columbine kids. They did set kind of explosive devices around town, thinking that when they went off and set fires, they would clog the roads and it would be harder for the first responders to get to the schools. Luckily, those devices didn't go off. when Columbine happened, but I just thought that was such a dastardly idea that that's also something that the shooters do in Run, Hide, Fight. There was a murder that I believe happened live via live stream on Facebook Live years ago, and that I found quite chilling. And I know that made Facebook kind of rethink their live streaming protocol. There's an idea in Run, Hide, Fight that I kind of created that I hope doesn't get out there too much, which is this idea of holding the tech giants kind of hostage for hosting the streams, where they're like, if you interrupt this stream that is now in process, we're going to kill everyone in the cafeteria. But yeah, some of that is that's just kind of culled from real life, and a lot of young people are living on their phones. And I guess, what am I saying around that? Only that I wonder how much of the dysfunction comes from social media and seeing people with, what look like better lives than the ones that you're leading, and resentment building in that way. I wonder how much of that, I do think that is an element to some of the shooters, the motivations. Yeah. Zoe was always a 17-year-old girl, even from just kind of getting the idea for Run, Hide, Fight. She also says that her dad is like, you stopped using your phone. So she's like, she's kind of the idealized, teenager who isn't on their phone and is trying to live kind of a more present life. And then, a major issue that she's struggling with is the recent death of her mom, and her mom kind of appears to her. And I wanted the events of Run, Hide, Fight to kind of, as intense as they are, heal her in a strange way. That she makes a series of decisions that save, a lot of her classmates. Isabel May said when she read the script, she's like, it occurred to me that, Zoe she's not heroic right from the jump. It's a series of decisions of taking responsibility, being a good citizen. I kind of love the scene where Zoe leaves the school and could run into the woods and just leave and save herself. But she looks back at the school and says, there's students in there that still don't know what's going on, and they're potentially going to die. And she goes back into the school, which I just think is so cool and aspirational. I am frightened for Run, Hide, Fight, the judgment that might come down upon it, levied by people who haven't even seen it yet. So my advice to anyone out there would be just to make sure you see the movie first before you start talking about it, or especially disparaging it. My goal was to write a very balanced film, and to not be preachy at all. And what I hope comes of it is more conversation, because I do think our country is very polarized right now, and people aren't even listening to each other. There's a lot of shutting down and canceling of ideas. And I think if we're not listening to each other as a culture, then we're not thinking as a culture. Because I do think when all the voices are allowed to speak in America is how we actually think and work through problems. And many people with many different beliefs have important ideas to share. So yeah, conversation. I hope Run, Hide, Fight just begets a lot of conversation, because I think in conversing is how we're maybe going to find a solution to this.